Hello, my name is Noel Ainsworth from the Queensland Department of Primary Industries, and today I'll be providing an update on climate science. I would also like to acknowledge these funding and support organisations. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the lands and seas on which we collectively meet, who have managed the land and seas for the past 65,000 years. The greenhouse effect drives climate change. As the sun's rays reach the Earth's surface, some are absorbed and re-emitted as heat. Small concentrations of greenhouse gases in our atmosphere controls how heat from the sun is absorbed and re-radiated. This has warmed the planet enough for life to thrive. Increased amounts of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere means more heat is trapped, warming the Earth. Human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels, have increased concentrations of atmospheric greenhouse gases by about 40% since the year 1900. While there are 8 recognized greenhouse gases, the pie chart shows that carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide are responsible for most of the climate change. Here you can also see that those 3 gases have a collective effect on warming and continue to rise, with carbon dioxide in blue, methane in red, and nitrous oxide in orange. In this graph, you can see the clear alignment between the black line of the carbon dioxide concentration and global surface temperatures over the last 200 or so years. The main impacts on horticultural producers include more frequent and severe weather events, longer and more intense heat waves and wildfires, reduced water availability, warming that affects what and when crops can be grown in Queensland, economically important ecosystems and species range shifts, and shifts in life cycle events, for example fisheries, sea level rise, and finally relocation or retreat of at-risk settlements and infrastructure. The world is heating up fast. In fact, while the world average has warmed by 1.1 degrees Celsius since humans started industrializing the planet, and while different parts of the world will warm differently, the IPCC forecasts that the world is currently on track for an average of 2.7 degrees of warming, with heating happening at a rate 20 times faster than after the last ice age. This will move us past the 2-degree threshold when we lose coral reefs, ice caps, glaciers, and significant amounts of biodiversity, and this will certainly affect how we undertake agriculture in Australia. This, of course, affects not only us, but also our environment. In March 24, we saw the 5th mass bleaching event since 2016, making it harder and harder for corals to keep re-establishing on the Great Barrier Reef. Prior to this latest event in the 22-23 year, average hard coral cover was at 33%. Basically, the carbon cycle has been in balance, as is illustrated by this flow diagram. Understanding more about the carbon cycle can help us identify how to reduce the buildup of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and in the oceans. And understanding a bit more about the nitrogen cycle can help us target where and how to reduce nitrous oxide emissions. The Paris Agreement, which Australia and most of the world has signed up to, aims to keep warming below 2 degrees Celsius and as close to 1.5 degrees as possible. Addressing climate change involves ensuring that greenhouse gas emissions peak as soon as possible and achieve net zero between 2050 and 2100. There is also a separate target for methane to reduce emissions by around 20% by 2030 and 35% by 2050. But it is hard to have discussions with family, friends, or colleagues about climate change action if those discussions are easily derailed by common and sometimes quite old climate change statements, it becomes a bit like the elephant in the room. Perhaps I can tackle 3 elephants in the room that you might have heard before. All 3 have elements of truth that makes them hard to ignore. The first myth I'll deal with is that the current climate change is just part of climate change cycles that have been going on for the past 700,000 years. Here you can see a graph of temperature changes over the past 500 million years, with time on a logarithmic scale, with degrees Celsius on the left axis and degrees Fahrenheit on the right axis. The temperature data comes from the evidence left behind in ice cores and tree rings. The red vertical lines are the 5 significant species extinction events. The temperature separation between green and yellow horizontal limits indicates when the ice caps have melted. It is true that there have been ice age cycles for the past 500,000 years, but this shows that it's now hotter than it's been for thousands of years and getting hotter than it's been for millions of years. I'm also showing when dinosaurs roamed the Earth in the Mesozoic era, which is often referred to as the Triassic, Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, and when humans evolved around 315,000 years ago. And I guess we're now in what is generally described as a brief yet stable Goldilocks phase. The second statement or myth is that the jury is out, with some scientists agreeing climate change is real and human-induced, while others dispute this. The reality is that you'll always get a range of opinion, but 97% of scientists now agree that climate change is human-induced. The third and final myth or statement that I commonly hear is that Australia won't have any impact because we are only responsible for 1% of worldwide emissions. Well, this is true, but 196 countries have now signed on to the Paris Agreement, those coloured light blue, dark blue and yellow in the map. And the IPCC has been clear that the decade leading up to 2030 is when we need to hit peak emissions and start to decline. So everyone is now taking action. From a business perspective, studies have already shown that stalling the decision to reduce emissions and adapting to existing climate changes will result in even greater economic burdens in the future. Therefore, taking action now will enable us to trial new technologies and approaches, reduce the need for rapid change, and reduce the cost of that change. Summing up, I'd encourage you to do your own homework, finding out what climate statements are still out there, and succinct ways to respond to these. Here are 3 sources of climate myths and facts that you might consider reviewing. I want to finish by acknowledging the Carbon Outreach Project under the Farm Business Resilience Program, which is jointly funded by the Australian Government's Future Drought Fund and the Queensland Government's Drought and Climate Adaptation Program. I'd also like to recognise the considerable development of information provided by the University of Melbourne. And finally, if you'd be willing to provide feedback to improve the Carbon Outreach team's understanding of your needs, just use your phone and this QR code link. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.